Are you gonna toot us? Are you a Catholic actually?
Yeah, Roman Catholic.
Look, brother, you already got the beard and everything. You're ready to just say the Shahada and
I
enter
know.
into Islam. Like,
I look like it, right?
you don't look like a Catholic in any way, shape, or form. You know? Where are you from?
Florida,
Florida.
the United
Okay.
States.
Where are you from originally?
No, Florida. I was born and raised in Florida.
Okay, okay,
But
okay.
I'm of Cuban descent, so from
That's
Cuba.
what I mean. Yeah, your ethnicity. Okay, Cuban. Okay.
Yeah.
So, do you have any questions for me? You ready to
Yeah.
accept Islam?
I have some questions and some doubts. But
Okay.
on the offset, I want to say I appreciate the religion. I
Okay.
do, and we share a lot of values, a lot of conservative values, and the fight against secularism. So I do appreciate it.
Okay.
So the first and foremost, Islam is based on the fact that Prophet Muhammad had a vision from God, from Allah in the cave, but right, or more or less like that. But
No.
the New Testament says, okay, well, the revelation.
No, it's
that he
okay.
was given-
I want you to make your claim, and then I will explain to you where you
Yeah.
got what you got right, what you got wrong. Okay.
Sure. Yeah. So Muhammad received a revelation. He says, God told me this. And then the religion started. And then Christianity is essentially the Apostle Paul receiving a vision saying, I saw this. Jesus told me this. So how can any of them be falsified or verified? How can you verify Islam in any way? Because it's just it's the same. It's more like he said, she said. That's my first.
Okay, excellent. Now, what you said there is very, very, very interesting. I'll tell you why. Because you are someone who actually is saying the truth about Paul, while other people are too ignorant to realize that Christianity is actually started by Paul, not Jesus. You know, so you actually saying that Paul is the one who started Christianity with his vision. It is true, because this is what people are following today. They're actually following Paul. They just don't know that they are following Paul. So it's good that you actually know that and you actually state that. No, Islam is not about Prophet Muhammad seeing a vision. While Paul claimed he was walking on his road to Damascus and he heard a voice in one story account, and another story account he saw something, he saw Jesus, whatever story account you want to take, and then based on that encounter he started preaching to the people. It's completely different than Prophet Muhammad والسلام, first claiming to be a prophet of God. So the first thing I want to highlight is this, is that Paul did not claim to be a prophet of God. He just claimed to be a follower of Jesus. If you claim I'm a follower of a prophet of God, and if you to actually claim that you are a prophet of God, that's not a small claim to make. So that's the first distinction between Prophet Muhammad and Paul. The second distinction is that just the first encounter of Prophet Muhammad was in the cave of Hira. This was his first encounter with Angel Gabriel, in which he told him the first few verses of the Quran. And then later on a yearly basis, he had encounters with Angel Gabriel, receiving revelation of the Quran. And there was many instances of which his companions observed Angel Gabriel, who came in a human form and engaged with Prophet Muhammad ﷺ. So it was not just one claim of one vision of which then everything spouted or came from, like it is the case with Paul. No, it was actually a gradual revelation coming to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ on a period of 23 years. And for example, Angel Gabriel used to come to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and this is a very interesting point to know. He used to come to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, and you know, in the deserts of Arabia at that time, a person coming with white clothes and no signs of travel. This is how the companions of the Prophet Muhammad ﷺ described it. It is impossible for you to come to the deserts of Arabia in the past, not be from the community, because everyone knows the community, to be a traveler from a different place, and to come with clean white clothes, no signs of travel, not recognized, not knowing who you are, not seeing when you're coming in and out. And then Angel Gabriel used to come in that form, and the companions of the Prophet ﷺ used to observe Angel Gabriel, and he used to give teachings to the Prophet ﷺ. So that's the second difference, is that it was a gradual revelation in many different forms. Some of it, even the companions, they witnessed. So when Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, his wife, Aisha radiallahu anha, she saw him when revelation was coming to him in a cold day in the deserts of Arabia. He used to sweat. Can you imagine sweating? And you know, in the deserts of Arabia, there's no buildings, nothing. It is the coldest thing you could have. And she said in the coldest day, he used to sweat when the revelation used to come on him. Another companion of the Prophet ﷺ, his leg was upon the leg, his knee was upon the knee of that companion, and then revelation came down. He felt the heaviness of revelation. He literally said, I felt my knee was going to break when revelation was coming down upon the Prophet ﷺ. There's many instances like this where they observed the revelation firsthand coming on Prophet Muhammad ﷺ, not just a claim on a vision traveling to Damascus or this or this. And I can give many differences, but I'll end with this one, right? And the third difference between Paul and Prophet Muhammad is that Prophet Muhammad ﷺ actually performed what people call miracles that the prophets of God do. And his companions and the people of his time and the disbelievers saw and witnessed those miracles firsthand of him performing in front of the people. Not only that, the Quran itself is a miracle, that we can use it to prove whether Prophet Muhammad is a prophet of God or not. And it is preserved to the time. Unlike the Bible that you cannot use by itself to prove that Paul was whatever he claimed to be. So there's a vast difference between the claim of Paul and Prophet Muhammad. This is just few of the differences.
Okay, I muted because of there might be background noise.
No, it's okay. I appreciate it.
Yeah, the revelations of Paul, according to Galatians 1, he went to Arabia for 3 years, and so he had something similar of a lifespan, according to Galatians chapter 1. It wasn't just
Sorry,
like
I don't think Galatians, does it say that he had multiple encounters with Jesus?
I'm taking it up right now. I don't think so.
Yes, it's just one. It says how many years he spent there. That doesn't mean he had visions when he was spending there. There's one vision where he came, where then Jesus told him, "Okay, on my behalf, you can do these type of things."
Sure. Yeah, and then he gives like an example of how his vision. Like, I know a man who went to the third heaven, but you're saying one is true, the other is false. But I saw the differences, and I'm listening to them carefully. How they're different, and one was longer, and the other had more visions, more encounters. But I don't see how that falsifies
witnessed by other people, supernatural events that they're observing while revelation is coming down on the individual, performing literal miracles, or people are looking at, claiming to be a prophet of God, not just a follower of a prophet of God. There is vast major differences.
Yeah, differences. There are vast differences.
They sorry to interrupt you. They also legitimize the case because he is bringing evidences and performing miracles. It's not just differences. Go ahead.
Yeah. And you and I both have this problem too. Joseph Smith also had visions. And so
no, I don't have this problem.
Yeah, because he's making also a claim. Sure.
Why is the difference? Joseph Smith have made a lot of false predictions about the future that was falsified. Like the fact that his house is going to burn, and then his followers burn his house. There's many things that he made that are false claims. So I can investigate his claims and show that they're false. Joseph Smith did not have supernatural experiences that people around him observe and saw him doing. He does not have a scripture in which you can investigate and come to the conclusion that he's a prophet of God. Again, there's vast differences between those people.
Sure, there are differences. Absolutely. You can just honestly compare them, and you see that there are differences between all three encounters: Joseph Smith, the Apostle Paul, and Muhammad. And I'm still not seeing how they can be falsified. You can say that they're different. You can say one man is holy. You can say one has multiple witnesses. But at the end of the day, you and I were not there. And so that's my main issue.
No, it's not. I think you're missing one thing. I'll tell you, is if you make the claim, you're supposed to provide the evidence. What evidence did Paul provide for his claim? I mentioned to you now the evidence Prophet Muhammad provided, which is the miracles that he done in front of his people, supernatural events that took place, and the Quran itself that we know is a miracle that many times in my videos, I don't know if you've seen my videos before, spoke about why the Quran is the word of God. While where is the evidences that shows that Paul is anything or reliable? We only have evidence of Paul lying, disagreeing with the disciples, telling Jews they do not have to practice the law anymore, while the disciples tell him that, why are you doing that? And then going and listening to the disciples and shaving his head and doing what they told him to do. So all we saw is disagreements between the disciples and Paul. And that we don't have the end of life of Paul anyways. We just have writings from the side of Paul, not from the other side about Paul. So the writings from Luke, which is supposed to be a companion of Paul, and then Paul himself, Galatians, and whatever he wrote, his side of the story. We don't have the other side of the story from the disciples of Jesus on what happened to Paul in the end. We don't have that historically. So Paul is just someone that we can see he had disagreements with the closest people to Jesus. So not only did he claim that he saw Jesus, he went against Jesus' teachings. He told the people not to follow the law. And Jesus warned that anyone who will teach you not to follow the law, he will be called the least to the kingdom of heaven. So he literally went against the teachings of Jesus, went against the disciples of Jesus, had no evidences for his claim. I don't see how is that, where is the evidences that we need to accept whatever Paul says to begin with?
Right. Paul claims in many of his letters that he preached to them the gospel and it was accompanied by miracles. And so they're both claiming miracles.
And which miracles? Which miracles?
He said, I come to you in power and demonstrated them with miracles.
Which miracles? What did Paul
miracles.
Do? What did Paul do?
He doesn't list them exactly what they were.
No, but because to say miracles can mean multiple different things. You understand? You can refer to the scripture or the wordings that you're bringing as miracles. What actual miracles did people record in history, especially external sources of Paul doing anything?
There are no specific miracles except the vision that he entered the third heaven. That's the only thing that is actually recorded by Paul that from my knowledge. There are the miracles of Jesus, though.
Imagine I said to you, I entered the seventh heaven. Would you accept that as a miracle, or just a claim?
Right, but you accept Muhammad went to heaven.
Why?
So it's almost the same thing, right?
No. Again, I think with all honesty, what's your name? What's your name? What can I call? Andrew. Look, Andrew, I think you're not paying close attention to what I'm saying, Andrew. Okay. Because you are in a way avoiding what I say. And I hope you're not doing that purposely. I explained to you why we accept the claim of Prophet Muhammad. Because there are external reasons, the evidence is external to himself that we can show that his claim was true. I now proved already that he's a prophet of God using the miracles and the evidences that are external to him. Now I can accept his claims based on that. While Paul, you do not have anything external to then verify his statement. So do you see now the difference? Then you cannot just say to me, but it's the same with Prophet Muhammad, because it's not the same.
Okay, yeah. I'm on the spot right now, so after this, I'll definitely go back.
I'm on the spot too.
I know, but you have more experience with this.
Okay.
So I'll definitely be able to go back and listen to the specific points as to why one is verifiable. So I just don't have time to process them and actually understand them.
Yes.
So.
Do you know anything of the miracles of the Prophet that you can observe today and see today? For example, the Quran itself, referring to the natural world, how it speaks about things that we're learning today about the natural world that no one knew at the time. Are you aware of some of these things? For example, the Quran speaking about the expansion of the universe, something that we learned in the 1900s using the Hubble telescope. The Quran speaking about mountains, how they have deep roots within the earth. They're not just on the top, but they're under the earth, that we're just today using all of these extra X-ray visions and this to observe the tectonic plates and how mountains actually form, which is something called isostasy we learned in the 1900s. The Quran talks about how the mountains have deep roots within the earth and they also stabilize the earth. And these things we learned in the 1900s because the mountains pushes the crust of the earth. So then there is less movement of tectonic plates and there's less mountains being formed. The Quran talking about clouds and how clouds are actually heavy. When if you observe them, you think they are the lightest thing that could be there on earth. The Quran refers to them as heavy clouds, and today we know they weigh tons. While they do look very, very, very light, and they actually go through objects, so you wouldn't even imagine that they're heavy, right?
Those are good. Those are good points. Very good, verifiable proofs. They are.
Yeah, and these are just some. The Quran talks about many. This is just now the naturalistic phenomena. The Prophet ﷺ speaking about the future. Prophet ﷺ, he said that you will see the barefoot Bedouin Arabs competing in building the tallest buildings. Do you know where is the tallest building in the world today? In Burj Khalifa in Dubai. The Bedouin Arabs, not just Arabs, because there's many Arabs. He's saying the Bedouin Arabs, people who live in the desert, not like Egypt or Iraq. No, he's talking about the Bedouin Arabs. He said they will be competing in building the tall buildings. He said the earth will puke as treasures and money will become abundant within the Arabs. The only reason they're able to build these towers that I'm referring to is because they found oil. Do you know that? 50 years ago, Dubai was a desert.
Yeah, I know about the oil.
Yeah, so the Prophet ﷺ said that 1,400 years ago, the earth will puke as treasures. Prophet Muhammad ﷺ spoke about the countries that Islam will enter. And he named these countries. He said, you will overcome the Roman and Persian Empire. And they did overcome the Roman and Persian Empire. Can you imagine a Bedouin Arab talking about the two biggest empires? It's like the Eskimos talking about USA and Russia. And he's saying to them, you will overcome. An Eskimo leader is saying to his people, you will overcome Russia and USA. These are superpowers of the time. He's saying to them, you will overcome them. And when the Roman king dies, he'll be the last Roman king in that region. When the Persian king dies, he will be the last one. And this is what happened in history. Look, the amount of prophecies that he made are innumerable. None of them were false. The amount of evidences in the Quran talking about the natural world or it not having any contradictions or it being easily memorized by the people, etc., or the news of the past that we did not know today. So the reason we know Prophet Muhammad ﷺ is a prophet of God is because of these evidences. And that's why we would accept his claim that he went to the heaven or didn't go to the heaven. All of that is what is secondary to accepting first, verifying the claim that he is a prophet of God. While Paul, it's not only that we don't have nothing to verify his claim, we have opposite to his claim that he's going against the teachings of the prophets of God. He's going against the disciples of Jesus. He is lying openly. He's saying, if my life further the truth, then why do you call me a sinner? This is his words. So how would I compare someone like this to Prophet Muhammad ﷺ? It makes no sense in my mind.
Yeah, that makes sense. That makes a lot of sense what you said. Yeah, okay. Do you have time for another question? Okay, this issue is internally with Islam. It's about Tawheed.
Okay.
I got this from the book God by Reza Aslan.
I don't know who that is, but yeah, go ahead.
Oh, okay. He wrote a book called Zealot. It was about the life of times of Jesus. It's popular in America, though. Basically, the issue with Tawheed, they said as soon as they established the oneness of Allah, then they started having an issue with Allah's word. If Allah's words come from Allah and they're not part of Allah, then how is Allah one? And then even deeper, if Allah, before he created anything, if he creates anything outside of himself, then how can he be one? How does that not violate Tawheed? Like, there was nothing in the universe. It was just him. He was just one. And then he creates. And now there's more than one. Everything comes from him ultimately. So how does that not violate Tawheed? Something like that. And that's how you get the Sufi school of thoughts.
It's not the Sufi school of thoughts.
Yeah.
Look, I think you're getting into things that are way beyond your experience. And I'm saying that with all due respect to you. Because what he's saying is essentially he's saying the position of the Mu'tazila. Did he mention Mu'tazila in his book? Mu'tazila?
He
You
mentioned
don't
them.
remember.
He mentioned some of them by name and some stories, but I don't know
I'm
about
sure.
that.
Who did he mention? Wasl ibn Ata, Amr ibn Ubaid. Anyways, he's mentioning. I don't know if you remember the names, obviously, right? But point is, he's referring to the Mu'tazila, which had an issue in Greek philosophy, which is completely ridiculous, which is the idea that if God has multiple attributes, there is multiple gods, or if God creates something, there's multiple gods. If God has more than one attribute, like if God is powerful and knowing and just, then now there is one God that is powerful, one God that is just. This is a ridiculous claim that the Mu'tazila had, that they were confused by, just because Allah Azza wa Jal has attributes, therefore there's multitudes of gods. How does that make any sense? But you're making the claim, so I'm asking you. The claim from the book,
Well, you're referring to the attributes. I was referring to also. I guess they are talking about the attributes.
They are, because that's where the claim comes from.
Yeah, I was thinking about the words of Allah.
Well, the words of Allah is
and
attributes
creation
of Allah.
itself, not just His attributes, but creating anything at all.
No, the words of Allah is the attribute of Allah. The kalam of Allah, the speech of God is the attribute of God. Just like your speech is your attribute. So it's the same issues. Just like if you compare it with mercy, you see how ridiculous it is when you start comparing it with other attributes. Problem is, I don't know if this guy is a Christian or apostate or whatever it is, but he's confusing Christian theology now of a word becoming God, which is something we don't believe in to begin with. We believe the attributes of Allah are always eternal within Allah Azza wa Jal. Means that Allah is all the time able to actualize this attribute. He's all the time able to be loving, merciful, create, speak. These are eternal attributes within Allah Azza wa Jal. And then Allah speaks. Now Allah creates and makes creation. And that does not mean, therefore, that there is now other gods. How does that make any sense? Do you know what ta'wil means?
The God is one. The oneness of God.
No, that's tawheed. Okay, no problem. It's okay. That's why I said to you, bro. Look. I said to you, Andrew, you're a nice brother. You're a polite person. But that's why I said to you, these things are way above your kind of understanding, and it's way above his understanding because he doesn't know what he's talking about. So he read some things and got confused, and then wrote them. Right. That's why I don't want to start here an Islamic history lecture. You're not going to find any Muslim today that believes that have an issue with tawheed, that Allah has many attributes, therefore there's many gods. There's not a single Muslim that believes this nonsense.
All right. Cool. Do we have time for one more, or
yeah, go ahead. No problem.
I guess my last big issue with it, or what I see is, like, I guess it maybe falsifies Islam, is the issue of the Kaaba, because the claim is Abraham made the Kaaba with Ishmael, right? During his life. At one point in his life, he rebuilt
the Kaaba on the foundations that were there before, which means that the house, because the Quran says, "Inna awwala baytin wudi'a lin-nasi lalladhi bi Bakkata mubarakah." The first house to be established for the people is the one in Mecca, which is the Kaaba. So it was established way before, and that's why the Quran says, وَإِذْ يَرْفَعُ إِبْرَاهِيمُ الْقَوَاعِدَ. When Abraham was elevating the foundations of the house, so the foundations were there. He just elevated the foundations of the house. He rebuilt the house that was already there.
Yeah. And so they say that there's no evidence of that in history at all. There was nothing said by any Jew ever. Nothing about Abraham's descendants or written about it just until Islam came. Only after Islam did they start making claims about the past.
Okay, let me tell you one thing. That's completely false. Do you know why?
I've heard why it's false. I haven't heard the Muslim.
Tell me why it's false. I'm going to tell you why it's false. Do you know what did you hear?
I just heard that the claims come only after Islam was made, but it was
but that's my point to you is it's false to say there is no historical evidence for it, because the fact is that Ishmael there's no historian that disagrees with that. The Bible mentions the same thing, that Kedar, who lived in the regions where the Arabs live today, comes from Ishmael, who is the son of Abraham. So they were in that region. So Ibrahim and Ismail alayhi salam were in that region, and the house is built. And the Arabs trace their lineages back to Ismail alayhi salam. They have the whole lineages, the name of the father, the grandfather, the great-great-grandfather, going all the way back to Ismail alayhi salam. This is a pride thing within the Arabs. So there is literally traceable history stronger than anyone. That Ismail alayhi salam was in that region, his mother was in that region, and they were there, and they built the house. To claim that there is no historical evidence that the Kaaba was built by Ismail alayhi salam is complete rubbish, nonsense. Which historian reliable denies that idea?
I'm not sure. So you're saying the evidence comes before Islam? Like, this evidence was written...
We believe Islam starts with Adam. But yes, before Prophet Muhammad, if that's what you say.
That's what I meant. The 600s.
Yes. Before Prophet Muhammad, the Arabs had lineages to Ismail, and the Kaaba was there. They were holding it to high regard because of Abraham. All of this is historical in the pre-Islamic times.
Do you have any videos about, like, the historical records before the 600s that refer to the Kaaba?
Literally, any book written about pre-Islamic history in the region of Mecca will tell you that.
Okay.
Any book, open any book you can find, even from secular sources, they will say to you that the Arabs used to have the Kaaba, because their only source of history is the Arabs anyways, who wrote their own history. They cannot have any other sources. You can have maybe some Roman sources and this and that. You will see them talking about that there was a house there's a Kaaba, and they used to hold it to high regard, but they used to worship idols. And the Prophet broke the idols that they used to worship, that they had around the Kaaba, over 300 idols around the Kaaba. But they used to believe it is something that it is holy. They used to hold it to be something holy because it was built by Abraham, according to them. And that's why when they wanted to rebuild it in the pre-Islamic times, they said we don't want to use any filthy money, no money from prostitutes, no money from interest. They were saying this when they were to rebuild it. They themselves did not want to use any money. Them knowing that this money is dodgy in the sight of God, the money brought from interest and this and that. They said we want to only use good money, pure money to rebuild, because for them they knew that this was a holy site. Even the Jews would not deny this, because there was Jews that know about the Arabs. Look, read any history. Like, honestly, this claim is super ridiculous. With all the respect, it goes against anyone who wrote history in the deserts of Arabia or knows anything about history in the deserts of Arabia.
Yeah. I asked because I like to look at secular historical sources outside of the religion to try to take away any bias, and that's how I look at Christianity too. Because that's how I learn about the Apostle Paul through a secular lens, to try to see it, to try to look at it objectively. And so that's why I approached the Kaaba in the same way.
No problem. So you said that's one. What else is stopping you now from being a Muslim? You, Andrew, accepting Islam and I actually have a Muslim beard, not just beard, but Muslim beard,
Yeah. No, I do need time to look back into what you said about
no problem.
Why Muhammad's visions can be verified, but Paul's vision cannot. And so
no problem.
So I still need time to look into that. I don't want to just argue with you. I do need time to look at it.
That's excellent. Look, I will upload the video, then you can watch it. Okay, I want to mention references and things like that. They will pop on the screen. Watch the video, revise, and then if you got any other questions, come back, ask these questions. But it's, as I said, the claim is very simple. We can establish that Prophet Muhammad is a prophet of God based on the evidences that he brought, and based on that, we accept his claim. Paul has no evidences for his claim, and we have the opposite of it, him lying and him being a dodgy individual. That's it.
That's what I'm looking for, that criteria of how you can establish evidence. I'm just looking for that criteria that you're using.
Which is what I just said to you, is like him making prophecies of the future, bringing a scripture that has no contradictions, no errors, no mistakes, speaking about the natural world. In fact, his life, that he was not looking for worldly things, he was just like for money or wealth or that. He was calling people to worship God alone, calling them away from worshiping idols. These type of things that would establish someone to be a prophet and messenger of God. Anyways, you can go back on the video and listen to them again. Yeah. Okay, Andrew, I'll let you go. Do you need anything?
No. Thanks for your time.
No problem. And thank you for being polite. It was a pleasure talking to you.
Pleasure.